work with Michelle.
Okay, because I can come on later too than 1.
Audrey Lynn is going to be practicing her presentation today.
In the co-working?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okie dokie. We're going to start off with oil. Remember, the way they make money is through volatility. And that's how we make money too. Anybody makes money in the markets if there's volatility. You just got to know which way it's going to go next, right? Well, a good thing about politicians is being like God, all-knowing. They can make these positions before they make their announcements. Oops.
So handy.
Yeah. Imagine if we had that kind of power. What would we be able to accomplish if we could just announce the direction that the markets were going to go before they went there?
Actually, they
Oil
don't
price.
announce it. They take their actions and then they announce it, right? Like
Yes, yes.
it's the other way
Yes, indeed.
around. Yeah.
Indeed. So oil back up again, creating another new high. Very, very dangerous. This is now above the previous resistance, above the previous resistance. That's this zone here. So now there's support. We can zoom in. We can see just in the last 24 hours, it's finding a support line. That pivot point will end up providing the support necessary for the next pump up. And we can tell, again, go just look at how the narrative is right now. The narrative is no matter what, oil prices are going up for two reasons. Number one, first, we've already lost, not that it's real, but that perception of lost productivity of oil, the loss of that oil getting to the market for the past month and a half, 2 months now. How was it that long ago? Yeah, it was the start of March that the war started, right? Yeah, yeah.
February 26th or 27th, something crazy like that.
Yeah. Ugh. So that has had a dramatic effect on the supply, and because that has a dramatic effect on people's emotions, the perception of lack, the perception of scarcity, is amplified. And so it doesn't matter what happens from here on out, oil is going up. Now, what I liked about Dario's perception is that there are two price points that we can expect. The first price point, he figures, is what's going to occur if there's just another blockade. And this is his zone that he feels would be the target if it's just a blockade and there's continued tensions, but that ships aren't getting through. Which, by the way, is a fascinating story out there. Look at how the narrative is just not making sense. We saw the same thing with COVID. Things just didn't make any sense. Why are these restrictions? Well, check this out. Trump goes around saying how Iran is blocking, is closing the Strait of Hormuz. And the Strait of Hormuz, we talked about this before the war even started. The Strait of Hormuz is not a channel. They actually cannot govern whether or not ships go through the strait. Ships have been free to go through, but insurance companies have said, look, because of the higher risk of war, and we don't know what the states are going to do to mess things up, the risk is there. So we have to charge incredible amounts, prohibitively expensive amounts of insurance if you want to pass through the strait. We're not going to cover anything unless you pay these higher premiums. And so a lot of ships were just like, we'll wait it out. That's how that worked. So the Iran did not block the Strait of Hormuz. But then what happens? What happens? Trump goes in and sets up a blockade. And even sunk an Iranian ship. Apparently, again, this is what the metaverse is telling us. That they actually sunk a ship. And that Iran was like, hey, what are you doing? You wanted it open, a ship came through, and you blew it up? It's just not making any sense. And of course, in questioning, the politicians are stuttering, bumbling fools. Because they don't have the capacity to have integrity with what they say. It's outside of their capacity. And there's actually a biological reason for it. And we're not going to get into that today because then all of a sudden people say I'm anti-Semitic and whatever the shit. So, here we go. His thinking, and this is just gonna give a little bit more detail. His thinking is that we're going to have the price go up. I think there's going to be another resistance at the all-time high. And like this, it'll end up coming into this range.
Who is his he again?
The
His
analysis. Yep, the analysis. This is from Dario.
Okay.
We talk about him a bunch. Sometimes I think you've been on some of the events where we've read off of his blog.
Oh, I don't know.
This
Maybe.
is nice for March 24th. Oil will decide when gold and silver bottoms. This and so yeah. Yeah. So with oil coming up, that does a few things, right? It actually does increase the productivity, the profitability of the economy, even though it restricts some nations from being able to get ahead, financially. Like Japan would be hurt by that, right? A lot of Europe would be hurt by higher oil prices. Russia wouldn't. Yeah, go ahead.
So these countries that you're talking about that would be hurt, this is a means in which to get them to toe the line.
Correct. That is exactly what this is. This is why, the first war is economic, while the first war is against the truth. And then what happens is that these countries, when they're starting to raise their tensions, I feel like I'm Norman. We don't want you to have access to energy because we don't want you to have access to energy. We don't want your people to be happy. We want to make life difficult for your people. So then they raise the prices of whatever they export to the country that goes, hey, stop doing that. We don't want that to happen. That hurts our people. What are you doing? And they just go like this, but it's an economic war. Right? And that's exactly what this is. There is no shortage of oil, folks. That is a very abundant resource, and in fact, it's regenerative. A lot of people don't know that. But you say that, and you can be said to be anti-Semitic too. So it's like you can't win. So there's no shortage of oil. The prices going up is deliberate. It's creating a crisis. This isn't what we're seeing is not the result of the crisis, right? This is creating it. That's what this is doing. We're not experiencing the price going up because oil is becoming because it's becoming more scarce. No, it's going up because countries are fighting over how much it ought to be. If this is the price expectation that Dario has, and he's really he's better at analyzing charts and figuring out math faster. That I could probably come up with the same math if I spent the days to do it, but he's able to do it in matters of hours. Because when you look at his charts, like we're looking at this on the 4-hour chart, he looks at charts on the 5-minute chart. So he's looking at it from this perspective here. Like imagine that when he shares a chart, and it's looking like let's say like this, right? This is approximately the size of the chart that he's looking at, but the span of time on his charts is 1 day. 1 day of price action, and he's able to tell the direction, long-term direction of oil looking at the 5-minute chart. And that is the reason. That's one of the reasons why I follow him, is because he has the brain of an autistic that is able to detect long-term patterns in a microscopic viewpoint. So his projection is that this price action would be expected if there's a continued blockade. But see, there's another option that the states have, and that is to obliterate the American people's wealth by creating what?
Well, increasing inflation,
Yep.
devaluing the dollar.
Yep. How would they do that now? What mechanism, what leverage would they use to convince we the people that that was a good idea? How do they make it so palatable that the consent of the governed is not withdrawn?
Well, from my perspective, as fuel gets more expensive, then, doing other things becomes secondary.
Right. And what would be the catalyst for such an event? How is it that they would make it just absolutely, like, this is the price range here that Dario's saying, that if they decide to go and destroy the wealth of the people, and they are going to go and the answer is that they would start a war, not just a blockade, a war.
But
And
I thought
apparently
they were at war.
Yeah, but this is all out, right? They haven't gone all out yet. These are considered skirmishes. No, like Israel, what Israel did to Gaza, that was all out obliteration, right? America wants to obliterate Iran. And the reason why is because the Rothschilds don't have a bank there. And the American military industrial complex is the leverage that the banking system needs in order to do this. So if it's a blockade, we're going to see the prices go into this range here. I'm going to just zoom in. Can I zoom in? Come on, give me some zoom. Because I really want to label this thing. Here we go. Blockade. Oh, wow.
Can you change the color?
Yeah, and I'll change everything about this here. There we go. Change the color and the size. Let's go 24, and I'll make it yellow. Is that better?
Are you going to do a different color to the other, just so that it shows kind of a difference?
You mean like have a blockade one color and then war the other? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. I'll make it yellow, and I will, that one there, it's blockade, and I'll make the size a little bit bigger as well. How do I make it bigger? Come on. Okay, so that's blockade. And then this one, I will make a background of red.
Ah, very nice.
And the line will also be red. And it's even, it's Israel style, right? So scorched earth. It's going to be all out destruction. We're taking you out. That's the mission. And if that were to occur, two things. Number one, I don't think they would succeed. And number two, And the reason why I don't think they would succeed is because Iran has the defense, and they have the support of China and Russia. That to go up against Iran in all-out war would be detrimental to the United States, because nobody of consequence likes them anymore. But what does this mean? So
Wait, likes which? Nobody likes who anymore? Us or someone else?
America. Yeah,
Okay,
nobody.
okay. That's right. I
Nobody.
get confused. You're speaking from Canada. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I get it. I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I say nobody of consequence because it's like, well, yeah, it's,
I would say to a certain degree, don't even like ourselves anymore.
well, yeah, and that is rightfully so. It's just, it was like yesterday or day before, there was an X post where someone was complaining about what Trump is doing and how much he deceived the people. And I was like, no. You are not deceived. And how do I know that? Well, because when we, and I say we, the reasoning, the people who have been witnessing this same pattern for the last 2,400 years, because that's how long it's been, since we, the reasoning, have said, you don't want to go with democracy, it's the bad idea, don't do it, please don't do it. Even the founding fathers said, no, that's the worst thing we could possibly do. But people gravitate towards it because of the manipulation of the governments. Because that's the thing, right? If you're going into government in a democracy, it is doomed to fail. Because in order for you to get voted, you have to convince the people that you're going to take care of them where you don't have the authority. So it's just it's a disaster waiting to happen. But alas, people enjoy the idea of someone being able to do something and stroke a pen in such a pattern that allows their pursuit of happiness to be easier. And what we're learning from the Colburn is that that's the last thing you want. Your pursuit of happiness is arduous, because that's how you learn, that's how you grow, that's how you become more. It's like the mushroom, right? The mushroom can break fucking concrete, and it will persist until the concrete breaks, and it will shoot itself up in between those cracks seeking the light. That's how we have to look at our lives. But no, it's way better if Trump can just make a concrete dream that makes us all comfortable and safe and all the rest. So, back to this, because the people have that tendency, it is unfortunately likely that the consent of the governed will not be withdrawn. And it really boils down to how much pain does Trump look forward to inflicting? Because, and I say Trump, it's not really him. He's just the marionette, right? He's just the puppet. And there's someone else going like this, and I can't say who it is because otherwise I'd be considered anti-Semitic. Look at what I go ahead with YouTube. But you know what? I know there are a lot of people that do that. So it's not that big of a deal anymore now, because it's all in everybody's face. And we can know that that's what they're after because the Bible actually says that that's what they're after. It's not like I'm saying something, really remarkable. Because it's in the book of Zechariah, chapter 12, if you ever actually want to go and see why it is that we're going through what we're going through. It's got nothing to do with the Holocaust. It's got nothing to do with, the woes of their ancestors or anything like that. It's got everything to do with Zechariah chapter 12. That's how we know what's going on is going to play itself out in the way that it is. And that's how we also know you can talk about things that are more anti-Semitic on YouTube now than you could 3 years ago, because now it's time for everybody to know. Go read Zechariah 12 and you'll find out why that's not being censored so much anymore. It's because they want us to be aware of the fact of how evil they are so that we go against them, because in their metaverse, Yahweh is going to come and save the day after we oppress them, after we get hard on them, after we discipline them. That's when Yahweh is going to come and smite us. That's why they're doing it. It's so that Yahweh will eventually come when we reprimand them. It's just the most messed up situation. So oil prices, where am I going with this? I'm going to the amount that we're going to see this grow. If there's a blockade, oil prices will rise by about 35%. And that's not that much. The blockade will actually be kind of nice. It'll be a reprieve. But that if it goes out into all-out war, and that there's a range, obviously. The blockade has a range. Dario says, between 120 and 150. So it could be 20% rise all the way up to a 46% rise. But then beyond that, if it goes out to war, we're looking at, anywhere from 120, but upwards to $300. $300 a barrel. Well, what is that? It's 153%. More so, 176%. Now, again, when we consider that oil is not a scarce resource, when we consider that the supply and demand numbers are just as manipulated as the diamond industry. Yeah, like people, it's funny too. Women are the worst because they think that the diamond is worth something. Oh, look how pretty it is. Yeah, you know what? Diamond is actually very abundant. In fact, it's so abundant, they use it for drill bits and saws. Audrey Lynn, go ahead.
Not only that, but it can be manufactured in a couple of days or weeks in a lab and be the same exact constituents as the stuff found in the dirt.
Yep.
Exactly the same stuff.
Correct. And that, diamonds, the supply and demand that is being that is portrayed is only in jewelry. But that you can get diamond bits, you spend $200 on diamond bits to drill through concrete, and you could work for weeks. Weeks and weeks and weeks. You'd be using them up because diamond does wear down. It's not indestructible. It's the hardest, but it's not indestructible. So you're going to burn through it. But $200, $200 of drilling, if you're drilling through concrete, you're getting paid to do that. It's a minuscule, it's like going out and buying coffee in the mornings. That's how expensive it is.
I'm going to make a short comment just to distinguish the people from the programming. That's all.
Thank you.
You said women are the worst, and it's like, ooh, there's been a major, how many hundreds of years, I don't know, diamonds are a girl's best friend. I never understood that particular program, but it's been rampant, just like they got women to smoke. They got, they've gotten all of us to do different things at different times. So I just want to call out the program more than the people that got sucked in by it.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And you're right. And when it comes right down to it, takes two to tango. If there's and I'm guilty of this. I bought an engagement ring when I was 21 years old. The stupidest thing I ever did. Yeah, Audrey Lynn, go ahead.
The diamond thing occurred in the late 19th century, early 20th century, when something to do with the British royal family having diamonds in their wedding jewelry. And that's where the marketing began. You wanted to be like the queen or a princess, you had a diamond on your finger.
Perfect. Yeah.
Now I'm wondering about what is it? Simon and Garfunkel. Paul Simon, his song "Diamonds in the Soles of Their Shoes." Anyway, it's probably a different. It's nice. It's a nice song.
Yep.
Anyway, "Diamonds in the Soles of Our Shoes."
I'm gonna look that one up.
Thank you for that historical context, Audrey-Lynn. That's always interesting and helpful. It just kind of takes the air out of the tires sometimes. In a good
Well, no,
way.
I get it that it's easy to place responsibility on one gender or the other just because that's what we've been programmed. That's all we see. It's okay.
Well, and like what you're saying, Paul, is that it's a bigger con than that because, women weren't necessarily going out and buying diamonds. Usually it's an engagement ring type thing. I think I've never partaken in this part of the culture, but
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like it's a multi-gender. This is how you get a gal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is how you show her how you value her.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Something that
By
could be
getting
used
her
for a
things.
$200 drill bit.
Yeah. Which
Or-
is, and it,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and it's funny because that means that we are admitting that we're not much more evolved than a penguin because that's how penguins do it. They go out and get themselves, the male penguin goes out and finds himself a shiny rock and brings it back to the female penguin and she accepts and then they mate.
I like rocks. I like all kinds of rocks.
Oh, yeah. Me too. In fact, I've got this one rock here. This one's really nice. It's shungite, in fact. Nice, that black, nice black thing. This one is great. Yeah, see, yeah, that's right. She's got a shungite little stone there. This one here, I've got pyramids too, but this is really the best one. Let me oh, I have to change it here. This one here, I've got it on my desk and it's pointed towards the door. Shungite. This stone is great.
What an interesting formation. I've not
Yeah,
seen that.
those rocks have such specific energies.
Yes. Yes. Well, and shungite wards off bad energy, and I just love the way that this one just was carved out of the earth. Like it's great. That's how I feel about negative energy. So it does a good job. So yeah, we're headed into a very trying time. And what this means, this is where we're going with this. Market analysis could go anywhere. But that we'll look at that, look at what's already happened. The Japanese yen strengthened. This big huge drop. That's huge in currencies.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? That is an incredible swing in where's my ruler? There we go. In foreign exchange, 0.25% is a big movement. This is 2 and well, yeah, overall it's more than 2 3/4. That's huge. So what's going on? How come Japan is doing so well against the oil? How is it that the US dollar dropped in value against the yen? It takes less yen to buy a US dollar. I don't actually know the answer. I'm fascinated by it.
Sounds like a deal was made.
Sounds like a deal was made. I'm sure we'll hear about it from Dario because he's watching the Japanese markets just as much. The US 30 jumps up as well. Will it keep on rising? We'll see what happens here today and tomorrow. See what it does. I'm going to go ahead and do the calculations here. It's been a few days since I updated the price. And again, for those of you who are new, we go the Dow Jones Average Industrial Index, or rather other way around, Industrial Average Index, 49,578. And we divide that by the price of gold, 46.16. And we got 10.74. So, and you know, that makes sense because the price going up, the price rising like this, it's rising at a faster rate than gold. So it makes sense. It's going to take more gold to get it. And we go 49,578. Divide that by the price of silver, 73.646564. And we're at 673. That's good enough. Fascinating. Takes more gold to buy the average now than it did when it was at the all-time high. Sign of things to come? Don't know. Don't know. Metals will be in high demand, though. Oh yeah, this was the marking that I put up there for people who think that silver's going to go up to $700, because that's what the futures are trading. That's what some future options are trading at right now. Silver, though, now underneath, definitively underneath that trend line. Gold also maintaining itself underneath its short-term trend line, has two other supporting bullish trend lines, though. Might come back and retest this one. Gold-silver ratio still hovering back and forth between that 68 to 60 ounces, yeah. 67 to 60. Bitcoin dominance still holding its position above that 60% threshold. And yet, we are still seeing basically a constant, you know, it's still consolidating down a little bit from this high on April 17th. But this is now all of the total market capitalization of all the coins except for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this is the altcoin index, so to speak. Before we get right into the analysis on crypto, I do want to come back to the tech companies. We had Amazon go up, create an all-time high, and even within the last 4 hours, it's come back down again, settling on that all-time high. Be interesting to see whether or not it maintains that. If it doesn't, then all we did was that we tested that growth. The fact that Amazon is investing so much as it is into AI right now tells me that they still have more steam to go. They're not going to do that if they don't think that they can get people to buy into it. Hey, Maureen made it. Sorry, I missed you there. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, Amazon is now using AI on customer service on the phone.
Yes. Yep, that's right. You're speaking to an agent now. Yeah, different kind of agent. Now it's a mechanical agent instead of, you know what, I'm not going to go there. We are all artificially intelligent. And the agent now is just a machine instead of a biological machine. Google blasting off this morning at market open, making a huge jump. In fact, from the close yesterday to the open, up 7%. Markets closed on Google at 300 and what is that? 347, and then opened at 380. Oh no, sorry, 371. Right now sitting at 380.15. Oracle does have a new high recently under its belt. Might be finding some support at this next pivot point above that major zone. I'm going to go ahead and move this zone upwards. Palantir actually consolidating, not creating new highs since November. NVIDIA, though, did go ahead and create another all-time high, sitting at 216, now fallen back to 201. But that all-time high, that means something. That means something. And again, I don't know whether it means that we're going to continue going up or not, but NVIDIA doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon, and I think we're going to see this bubble continue. I don't think they're done yet extracting the wealth from the people through this rug pull. And that, all of these companies that are heading up this phase I think that they're already preparing for their rebrand after the rug has been pulled, because the money doesn't disappear. It just transfers from one form to the other. That goes back into the Japanese markets. Okay, let's go back into cryptos. Bitcoin now sitting at 76,000 US. Very well could be that final test of the trend line. That trend line stemming all the way back from October. Rising above that is a significant move. It looks insignificant because it's, fluctuation of only 3%, 4% price difference. Imagine if this was the Japanese yen every day. Back and forth and back and forth. Volatility is where the money is made. So Bitcoin now above that trend line, I think it's going to find support off of it. And it might still dip down and retest these levels here. It wouldn't be outside of the realm of possibility, simply because we've had 1, 2, 3 impulses heading up from that point. Those 3 impulses could very well call for a retracement and a retest. But that trend line is going to provide a lot of resistance, I can tell you that, especially with this dominance rising. With Bitcoin dominance rising. Or are you touching your nose again? Oh, no, you're just hand up by your nose. The Bitcoin dominance staying up like this means that more people are putting it into Bitcoin. They're coming into the ecosystem, putting it into Bitcoin.
Paul, I really like it when you say things like volatility. Oh, it's really volatile, and that's where the money's made. And you keep repeating those things, and you do it throughout. And what it does is it anchors it in without me really trying to memorize it or something. So I wanted to let you know that I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you. That's a compliment to me. Thank you. My intention is to bring these principles through, and I do approach the charts very differently from how most people do, and I think that thank you. I'm grateful for that feedback. It lets me know that I'm on the right track in how I present. Ethereum actually petering out here over the last little while, hasn't created a new high since April 17th. At the same time, though, could very well be finding its support. The retest of this pivot point here, the retest of that is very likely. And I made that squiggly line there a couple weeks ago pertaining to that. ADA, still consolidating, and I would say that the energy buildup is increasing in a very real sense. Because even when it does dip below, it's very, very brief. When it dips below this little consolidation zone. And we are following that trend line. This is the trend line starting all the way from February. This trend line, although it has tested it hard over the last little while, we're still following it. And to me, this is the equivalent of a narrowing of a pie or a wedge, because we broke out of the trend line, but we're still hugging it. So that is, again, that's that energy buildup, that consolidation around a point. XRP actually on quite the decline at the moment from last week. No, that's 2 weeks now. Down 8%.
Could you check Injecta and just do a little blurb about what Injecta is?
Yeah. Injective, I haven't actually analyzed that one for a while. Let me bring it up here from the KuCoins feed. Injective, actually has been doing quite well, performing over the last little while. Thanks for bringing this up. It's up 42% in the last month. Sitting at $3.44 at the moment. It definitely has a major resistance. It's going to experience some resistance from this zone here, simply because of how much support it provided in the past and how much resistance it's providing now. And we can also see, though, that this trend line from that low, this was at the beginning of April, that low is translating into a trend line now. So we'll see if it can maintain this. We'll likely create another high.
Is that a trend line going down so that they're going to intersect those two trend lines?
Yes, I would say so. And in fact, we have a couple of trends going on here. I'm going to bring note to this. This trend line here is following these highs. It has already been intersected. And we can see that that trend line, even when it got broke, it got retested right here at that intersection. So right now, this short-term trend is outperforming the long-term trend. Great chart to bring up today. That's awesome. There is an outer trend line, though, because as you can see, this trend line that I've drawn here is after this big dip. That was a big day back in October when, I can't remember, it was like $800 billion got liquidated from people's accounts that day. And after that, it formed a new standard for a trend, but there is a trend line outside of that, starting from these highs over here. So we can see that there is another trend that this little one would have to break out of. And that just might be where we see the next consolidation, that narrowing and the building up of energy before another breakout.
Could you just give a little synopsis of what Injective is? Or am I saying it right? Injecta or Injective? Or
the Injective token is on the Ethereum network. And their objective, the reason why they were brought forward was because they recognized that there was a growing ecosystem of various coins that weren't talking to each other. And that the fees were getting higher, and the portability, or what's called interoperability between the chains, was getting more and more complex. And so Injective, backboning off of Ethereum, they have their initiative is to make that transition between coins a lot easier, so that smart contracts, it's actually kind of similar to Midnight in its objective. But the drawback to Injective is the drawback is that Ethereum utilizes a programming language that is representative, and it doesn't make it wrong. It's just recognizing that there are superior ways of calculating and encrypting this information, the data. And so I think that the objective should be a more mathematical approach instead of a representative approach. And that's just the programming language. The languages used in smart contracts on Ethereum are the same language that we use when we're interacting with websites. Whereas the language that is used within Cardano and by extension Midnight is a mathematical language where it's logic based. So Injective is on the right track, and I think it'll do very well over the next bubble, simply because of the vast ecosystem that Ethereum is bringing with it. And I also feel like there will be, and I think that Midnight is even going to integrate with Injective. So people who have the Injective token, they'll be able to stake their Injective on the Midnight network and have their Injective tokens grow and be staked, staying as Injective without having to convert it. That's where I see Midnight really outperforming the other collaboration tokens. That's what I would call this, collaboration or the interoperability tokens. Midnight is saying, we don't want you to have to change your token for ours in order to conduct your trade. Injective is saying, let's have a coin that people can get that allow them to interact with other coins, but there's still a transaction going back and forth. You're still having to swap your coins. Midnight's saying, no, we don't want you to have to swap. Just have all these contracts be able to talk to each other. Does that help with what Injective is? And I know I'm making it seem like Injective is inferior. It isn't really inferior. It's just an older technology. Maureen, I can see you're talking, but you're muted.
It just seems that Invective is the new. Midnight's is an evolution of invective.
Yes.
Invective, or I don't know what.
Yep.
Whatever. Yeah. Thank you. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Fetch, I want to be mindful of the time here. Fetch is sitting at 19 cents at the moment. We actually have a confirmed downward trend at the moment with Fetch. You can see that manifest right there. And it's also under a major resistance line at the moment. This here is going to provide that resistance, I think, for a while. Unless, of course, things just blow up and we're done with all the waiting. Polygon in the video gaming world is still just coming off of all-time lows from 8.1 cents. Up 17% though, because that's all it takes to go to 9.6. Desync reaching for those all-time lows again. In fact, I think it did. Yes, it did.
Do a little synopsis on Desync too, because I know I kind of know what that is, but I know you've referenced it. If you would.
Yeah. Desync is a decentralized synchronization is what that stands for. And what they're wanting to provide is the ability for people to access their data privately behind blockchain encryption without the need for intermediaries. So what does that mean? Well, Google right now, they've got Google Drive. Microsoft has OneDrive. Dropbox. These are different cloud computing services that synchronize your data across all your devices. You can go to your Google account on your phone and you can see your Google Docs, just like you can if you go on your laptop or your desktop. The Dropbox is the same thing. You can get a desktop app for it, and get a mobile app for it. You can synchronize that data with other people who have the same accounts. Desync says, it's one step back, sorry. With those services like Google, Amazon has their cloud service as well. With those cloud services, you have to log in with a username and a password. That's how you authenticate your access. That's how you ask for permission to access the data that is stored by those companies. And the terms of service are very clear. It's not your data. That doesn't belong to you. It belongs, it's in the custody of those companies.
Like a bank.
Correct. No different than a bank. And you can go and look at your bank terms and conditions. And I don't know what it's like in the States specifically, but after Prime Minister Harper in 2012, 2013, he passed legislation that made it where the terms and conditions of the bank were actually adjusted, where it says that in the case of an emergency, the banks have the capacity to claim your deposits as their property. Yeah. Of course, only in an emergency. Don't worry, they're not going to abuse that power. Oh, wait a minute. They didn't, that's the thing, right? Oh, they overextended their powers by blocking the account during the Emergency Act. Oh, so it was an emergency. That's why they did it, people. Right now, and it goes back to the whole we were talking about before. Self-evident truth. It's by the consent of the governed that occurs. When we go to desync, their objective is for you to have the same functionality of being able to synchronize your data across various devices, but not require a username and a password. How do we authenticate your access without there being a username and a password required? How do we make it so that this is all conducted through smart contracts? When you look at how data contracts work, by the way, data contracts are not new. Data contracts stem back from like the 70s or something like that when they made the first contract. It wasn't a smart contract simply because it wasn't automated. It had to be built and put into place and invoked manually. Back then, you would authenticate your access, self-authenticate your access with your IP address. That's how you did it. It's the same technology, but now instead of an IP address, they call it wallet address. So your wallet becomes an address in which you can write an automated contract so that when you wish to transact with data, that data can transact freely without the need for permission. Why? Because you were able to self-authenticate yourself when you requested the data. That you have governance over that contract that allows that data to transmit, to transact.
I just want to see if I've got it right in my head. So like the Panama Canal has those, those drawbridges, or they're not drawbridges, but they're whatever those things are that let you pass from one level to the next of the sea. Yeah. So our wallet address which is like dollar, Mo Dragon dot writers. That would be my smart contract. That gives me access, and that assures my privacy because there's nothing linked to that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I can use that as access. That's linked only to something that I have the private kind of use of. That everything is private behind a big privacy wall.
That's
But
right.
it's like we'll seal it off again, right? Like those levees. Are they called levees in the Panama Canal?
Locks.
About how because there's different sea levels on each side of the isthmus there, so they
They're
have
called locks.
locks.
Locks, yeah.
Thank you.
Very, very similar to that, in that in order to pass through, in order for that access to be granted, you have to self-authenticate. You don't look for a username and a password, because again, the username and the password, now that has to be stored somewhere. Right? It's in your brain, sure, but you are invoking an old contract because you're requesting access. You're not validating access, you're requesting access. The validation occurs at the head server where your username and your password is compared. What you enter needs to be compared with what they have on file.
That is such a good distinction.
Huge.
I'm going to have to hear that several times, but I'm kind of getting the picture now that it just fills it in. It's like coloring the coloring book in. Okay.
Yep. I'm going to bring up another example of this so that you can see it in action. This is where it's most commonly practiced. This is called MinSwap. It's another exchange, but it's a decentralized exchange. There's no fiat currencies on it. When you go to the home page, you can go ahead and you can trade things, right? But I'm logged in. I'm going to go ahead and log out right now. So right now I am logged out. There's no I don't have access to conduct a trade. I can preview what a trade would be worth because they've got the tickers and they've got the charts, and I can go and look at the market and figure out what coin I want to look at. I can do all that, but I cannot conduct a trade until I sign in, right? Yeah, we're very familiar with that process. Got to sign in. But within this realm, the sign-in process would be username and a password. But we need to work away from that mentality so that these contracts become more autonomous or more self-governing. So in order for me to access, I don't have to create an account. All I have to do is connect my wallet. What does that do? All it does is that it tells MinSwap what address am I wishing to use to swap contracts. That's what's going on. So I go ahead and I grab my Eternal wallet. I don't actually remember.
Is that an example of zero proof knowledge?
Correct. There's no identifier on a wallet address. Zero.
Oh, okay. Say that again. Zero proof knowledge.
Audrey Lynn, this would be awesome if you could expand on what you perceive zero knowledge proof to be, and then I'll reflect back.
What I'm looking for is my Tim Hortons card, but it's that idea that I have an access capability where I don't have to give a username or password. It's because I have, let's just say, because I have the card in my possession, that is simply enough reason for me to have access to that service or product or experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Zero knowledge proof would be, in practicality, a way that we can see how it could be applied to maintain privacy. Zero knowledge proof, by its definition, simply means that we don't need to know who you are to grant access. And a practical use of this would be in security. I manage different buildings, and in condominiums especially, you have those fobs, those key fobs, and typically you just touch the fob against the little scanner and it just confirms that, yep, that fob is registered inside our system. And then you hear the little bang where the door suddenly opens and you can pull the door open because the magnetic servo has been disconnected because you authenticated yourself. You authenticated that entry with your fob. But that fob is associated with your unit number, your license plate number, your address, and then that turns into your membership with the condominium, which means you also have your banking information. Like, it's all interconnected with your data. Zero knowledge proof is an access point that allows you to scan the fob, and the security company has no idea who just scanned it. The security company just checks to see whether or not the fob is valid. It can't even see what identifier is that fob. Which fob ID is it? They don't see that. Zero knowledge proof simply transmits the message to the security company, this fob is validated. That's it. So in practice, in the digital realm, when I click on Eternal here, I'm simply presenting my fob in front of the MinSwap scanner. And I just say, here's my wallet. And MinSwap says, oh yeah, here's your information. We don't see your information, but now you can connect and use our services. So they don't see who I am. They can't see my activity. They can't see any of that stuff. All they see is the contract address. This is where he's going to do the trades, and he's validated because he's got a wallet. Now I can go ahead and click on midnight, right? And I think I just used the last of my ADA to get some midnight. But there, I can check the charts and be like, yep, now's the time to buy, now's the time to sell, and I can execute these trades. But I don't have to sign in. I don't have to tell MinSwap who I am. I don't have to do any of that stuff. We were just watching a video with NextGen Merchants last night where the banking system is making it where, Audrey, Maureen, I don't know how you dropped down, but validate versus authenticate. Good question.
Is that what we're doing? Is we're validating means, I just want to make sure the words validate means that this is the correct address. Authenticate means you have to prove you're the author of something, or you have to, who's the person that's doing this? Yeah. So
this is a good question. And I need to practice more continuity in the language that I use. To validate would actually be the old way of doing things. To authenticate, now it's more it's a more self-responsible act.
it's more in line with sovereignty.
Yes.
I'm the author.
Yes.
I don't have to produce something valid to you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
And I created the identifier too. Like when I went ahead and I wrote down my 24-word key phrase, that address became mine. I created it. I brought it into effect. So I am the author of that address, and I authenticate myself when I show up to MinSwap. Desync wants us to have access to our data, the data that we create, but have it behind protocols that make it impossible to see the data unless there's a valid contract. If there's no valid contract, if someone does not authenticate their access, self-authenticate again, if the self-authentication is not present, it's impossible for the data to be seen. That's desync. Now, let's just go to BitTensor, because we look at BitTensor quite a bit. This here is purporting to be blockchain-based, Web3 compatible. But the fact of the matter is, you will not be able to use their products and services unless you have the right digital ID. If it's not the right digital ID, then you can't use it. Meaning that you're going to be allowed to create your digital ID, but that it's not going to be something that you control. They are going to maintain the control over which identifier you get to use to create your data. Desync says, no. If you want to have multi-personality disorder, which is really not a disorder at all, it just means that you have an awareness of who you are in every single moment. You want to practice that? You want to create 30 different identifiers? Go for it. We don't even care. We don't even care what kind of identifier you create to be able to access the data. Storj is another service that I actually use Storj more than I use Desync, only because with Desync it's a little bit more technically advanced. Like there's more of a technical aspect to it. You got to be a developer, software developer, or a blockchain developer. I'm neither, and so I gravitate more towards Storj because looks like I don't get to see a KuCoin feed, so I'm just going to grab the Kraken feed. Storj is another service that provides the same values. I would say they are aligned with the same values as Desync in that they want you to have, this is your data and you control the access. We don't want to have anything to do with that. All we're doing is providing the nodes with which we provide that decentralized physical infrastructure that allows your content to be seen by others who have their contracts. So they are providing an infrastructure that uses zero knowledge proof to deliver content to your customers. And they just do it in a more user-friendly way than Desync does. That pretty much does it. I'm going to take a quick break. I've got Michelle coming into the Dragon Riders next cloud here in the next half hour or so. And then we got co-work.
Just to mark 11:11 here.
It's
Our
11.
time. It's 11:11.
Haha.
You're an hour ahead, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's
yes.
12:11 here. Yeah.
Do you want
What
to?
time is co-work?
Do you want to
Co-work
make it
will start-
45 after the hour, or
Yeah, so co-work, I'm going to open the room up at the top of the hour. I might be a few minutes wrapping up things with Michelle,
Sure.
but I'll open up the room at the top of the hour and I'll let people in.
So 1 o'clock,
Yep.
well,
Okay.
2 o'clock here?
2 o'clock your time.
Yes. Whoa, that means it's 1:11 your time.
Yes, it is.
So
Yeah, I
we're
looked at
sandwiched.
that one, Maureen.
We're sandwiched between the ones.
Yep. Sounds good. See you
Right
soon.
on. You bet, everybody. Take care.
Oh, wait a minute. Don't go.
Yeah. Okay. What?
Potato Club